Welcome to this episode of Out in the Borderland. This installment of OITB features a special look at KCC TV and Fellow Traveler Digital Media's extended trailer for an upcoming feature-length documentary. The documentary highlights a little-known but incredibly important part of history, two pivotal labor strikes which occurred more than 100 years ago in Minnesota's Northland. Enjoy this sneak peek and look for the documentary's opening in May 2017.
Председатель Совнаркома Владимир Ильич Ленин.
Some say it was a free-for-all fight. Another person said it was just like lightning. It happened very quickly. But like I said, the end result is that John Aller was killed. And later telegrams between the mining company officials basically said, you know, it was a fight with clubs, rocks, bricks, and guns. So very violent, very brutal.
It was a very dangerous way to make a living. There were accidents all the time. The rate of death was very high on the Mesabi Iron Range. It was estimated at one point that 90% of the miners who died on the Mesabi Iron Range prior to 1920 or so were immigrant miners.
Industrial Workers of the World, the IWW, or the Wobblies as they were popularly known as, it was a revolutionary labor organization founded in Chicago in 1905.
And in that car were the bleeding Montenegrin miners and strikers who had fought in Biłowież. And it was during the course of that ride that he found out all that had happened and their side of that story. And they were taken to Duluth, thrown into the jail, and all were charged with first-degree murder.
Dates from August 1916 up through early October of 1916, and as such, that really bridges the space between really the very end days of the summer strike for the iron miners up on the Mesabi, and dovetails into eventually in early 1917 the lumberjack strike.
Well, the men were very rough. They'd been out in the camps for a long time. They needed baths. They needed, you know, something to eat, and a lot of them liked to play cards. So there were a lot of places to play cards and spend your money. There were also some ladies of the night.
I think the lumber camps were located all around the Bemidji area, but primarily, from what I've read in the newspapers, I think they were located, more of them were located north of Bemidji than any other direction. And that was partly because of accessibility, and the camps were, many of the men used the railroad going north up towards Big Falls and Gemmel and Margie and that area to get to and from the camps.
They know the language of labor speaks many tongues, but theirs is a single voice composed of 1,000 tracks crunching through snow. 1,000 tracks that speak one action, one revolution. 1,000 tracks that blaze the path from the woods to Gemmel Station.
On this winter day, we're walking along the former railroad line that used to connect International Falls and Bemidji. The little whistle stop of Gemmel was the epicenter of the 1917 strike, because in this little hamlet there existed a depot, and it was at this small depot that the hundreds, if not thousands, of timber beasts were streaming out of the woods.
I think during World War I, the boys had no idea what they were getting into. They had never heard of that type of warfare. And so Bemidji became ultra patriotic.
I think what's most significant about the Jess Dunning trial is, one, that the state of Minnesota passed a bill and then named it after the IWW, right? Like, you know, you're in big trouble when they pass legislation and name it after you. And it was used to target the IWW and other folks who were doing organizing. And Jess was the first conviction under that, which was the precursor to the Espionage Act.
But even today, you run into a few people who said, you know, my dad was not on the side of the strikers. And you read these histories and you realize that there were people who were security for the mines, who were one of the thugs who would battle with the Union people. And they had a very dim view of the IWW and the strikers at that time. They viewed them as radicals, as people who ultimately were in the way of progress for the area.
But the IWW was a singing union. They used music as one of their most persuasive tactics, and so that's kind of why I'm here doing a history presentation with a guitar. We meet today in freedom's cause and raise our voices high. Join our hands in union strong to battle or to die, and hold the fort, for we are coming. Union workers, be strong and side